Have you ever wondered where Halloween originated and what it truly means? Has the thought of witches being in your ancestral line ever occurred to you? How does this time of the year make you feel? And are you aware of how important Halloween really is? Happy Halloween! I'm over the moon, literally, like a witch on a broom. I'm over the moon to release this episode today as it's my number one favourite day of the year. I love Halloween. I absolutely love every single thing about it. I love the way that it happens and the change of the seasons, the boost of energy I get after the summer ending. I love all the colours, the smells. In Ireland, the smells of smoke in the air and the bonfires mixing with the coldness and coziness and candles. Halloween in Ireland is the best. I'm sure it's way better in America, but I think in Ireland it's much better than it is in Spain, where I live. And it makes me a little sad, actually, that I'm not there to see and smell the wonderful bonfires and decorations and people and kids and people getting dressed up and going trick-or-treating. Oh, I love Halloween so much. So, did you or did you not know that Halloween actually came from Ireland? It was a Celtic festival and it was called Samhain, Samhain. For those of you who don't know, it began as a pagan celebration over 2,000 years ago. The origin of Samhain was that on the 31st of October, on that day, a portal between the real world and the other world became blurred. So like the veil became thinner. And that meant that like spirits and banshees and ghosts, in Irish it's called pukas, could slip into our world and cause mischief. And the good spirits, those who are close friends and family, from graves, who are in graves or who were, or I don't know, wherever their graves are, would return home and visit their loved ones on that night. And then communities would leave a fire burning and make a large feast. And they say that Celts would wear masks and costumes to disguise themselves from any other evil spirits that may be roaming around. And that created the concepts of wearing costumes at Halloween. And this is something that we obviously see today. And that's why Halloween, Hallows Eve, it's called, Iha Shauna in Irish, is basically the origin of Halloween. Then Ireland had a famine. There was a disease in our potatoes called the potato blight. And a famine basically killed a lot of the population. And a lot of the population had to emigrate to America. And with the population went our traditions. So the worst year of the famine was 1847, so it says. But yeah, 1845 to 1849 was the Great Hunger in Ireland. And that's how Halloween got to America. So if you didn't know that, now you do. And I'm very glad to bring you something new. So I'd like to dedicate this episode to all the wonderful witches, witch doctors, earth people, shamans out there throughout history, in the past, present and future, and parallel worlds. Let's take a moment of silence for those in history who were burned at the stake, tortured and punished, and sometimes for no reason at all. Let's keep in our minds the effect that may have had down our ancestral lines and might even be apparent in you. I know that it certainly seems apparent in me. Are you afraid to show your true self to the world? I know I was, and I still am. I'm still a little bit afraid to show my true self to the world. I'm getting there, but every day it gets easier. Does it terrify you to tell people about the real you inside? Is there like a fear factor? Do you get awfully terrified? If so, it might be worth looking into your ancestral line to see if there's any ancestral trauma or any wonderful witches. If you'd like to explore your ancestral line through quantum hypnosis, get in touch with me and we can dive deep and explore your ancestors, your line of ancestors, to see if there are any lovely witches, healers, shamans, or any earth people who knew how to use their wonderful natural powers, just like the ones we all have these days, but might not know how to use them. Or we might not know if they're there, or they may not have been activated yet. It's funny because we all have access to healing abilities, to accessing our subconscious mind, to really tapping into the so-called powers that witches had. We all have that ability, just like shamans have. Obviously it requires a lot of study and practice and putting it into action, and a lot of like research, but they're available to us. It's funny because have you ever wondered why or how in the Bible Jesus had the ability to cure people with his hands? And just like people who heal with Reiki and hands-on healing, like it's something that not only witches had, but also in different religions. Like it's kind of a pattern throughout history from different angles and different tales. So yeah, we all have access to these wonderful natural powers. While I was doing a bit of research on witches and the history of witches and discovering how much they suffered throughout the world and throughout history, I came across a documentary movie called A Witch Story. I'm not sure if you've ever heard about it, but it's the legacy of the Salem witch hunts. So yes, it's a documentary by Yolanda Pividal, if I'm saying that right. And she discusses her documentary, A Witch Story, that tackles the origins of the myth of witchcraft and the systematic persecution of women dating back to the Salem witch trials. A young writer, Alice, was a teenager when she discovered something that changed her life forever. She was a descendant of Martha Allen Carrier, a woman hanged for witchcraft during the Salem witch trials of 1692. At 24 years of age, after scouring archives, reading academic texts, and compiling hundreds of pages of notes on witch hunts, Alice is ready to share her findings in a book. But before finishing the story, she has some last strings to tie up, which leads her to revisit the last days of Martha in Salem and to reckon with the fact that for millions around the world, Salem is not over. Departing from a personal quest and merging with the testimony of Italian feminist scholar Silvia Federici, A Witch Story is a feature documentary about memory and the need to unveil the real social and political motivations behind the great witch hunts of Europe and the Americans, to understand the violence waged against women today. From the spread of new forms of witch hunting in various regions of the world to the escalation worldwide of the number of women daily murdered, the evidence is mounting that a new war is being waged against women. What are the motivations and the logic behind them? What is the link between those women accused of witchcraft in the 16th century and women's struggles nowadays? A witch story aims to deconstruct the tales that we've been told about women for hundreds of years and which still kill thousands in witch hunts today. Modern witch hunts have taken place in the last decade on every inhabited continent, but are most common in countries that are recovering from European colonialism, under exploitation by global capital and under the stress of Christian missionary activity. Where modern witch hunts are less common, we see the same rhetoric that was used in the witch hunts of the past, in social and political landscapes, in struggles to access reproductive health care, the scapegoating of immigrants, and the shaming of impoverished communities, and sometimes word for word in the denouncement of female politicians and leaders of social movements. We can also find stories of resistance. Feminist movements have gathered momentum, support and power in Latin America and Western Europe under the chant, "We are the descendants of witches that you could not burn." A witch story is born in the context of the international campaign to restore the memory of women executed for witchcraft, founded by Silvia Federici, a growing network of women historians, scholars, anthropologists, archivists, students, writers, visual storytellers and journalists from countries such as Spain, United States and Ecuador. This is a campaign that seeks to address the truth of witch hunts, past and present. This is a campaign that seeks to address the truth of witch hunts, past and present, and reconstruct the forgotten history of murdered women. In this context, a witch story aims to become a tool to challenge historical and political preconceptions, allow for new narratives to emerge, and spur action to address the witch hunts of the present while honouring the victims of the past. Wow, amazing. So this is what I'm going to watch tonight on Halloween Eve. I can't wait to watch it. So I haven't watched it yet. Let me know what you think of it when you do watch it, and we can discuss. Are you somebody who loves to read tarot, has healing capabilities, connected to the earth, and just feels like magical and powerful? Well, if you are, there's a high likelihood that you could be a witch, but a lovely witch. And maybe your psychic intuition could be starting to open, like a lot of people nowadays. Are you connected to the moon and the stars? Are you connected to animals and fairies? Let's have a look at black magic and white magic. Would you believe that black magic and white magic actually comes in traditional American culture? White magic referred to nice spells, often conducted by white ladies, and black magic was portrayed as evil spells and conducted by scary ladies, which kind of has an essence of racism, if you can think about it. The diversion of magic into black or white has racist undertones. Hexes are a form of black magic, and hexes are a form of a spell, usually assumed to inflict harm on someone else, although it could be a form of protection. I'm just reading an article here, and the lady says that she had done magic to stop rapists and violent abusers. So is black magic native then? She said that she's done magic to help women having a hard time bringing babies into the world, or to keep her magic safe. So I think if the intention is good behind the magic, I think you're generally on the right track. I think obviously if there's a good intention behind magic, whether it be black or white, I think that you're doing something good for somebody out there. But if somebody is performing black magic to harm someone, it can be that they're not in a good place themselves. They could become they probably are coming from a place of anger, and they could be wanting to release anger or harm somebody because they were harmed, make somebody else feel bad, or surround them with negative energy. It's all about intention at the end of the day. This world, we're all made up of energy. Everything is energy, and we can focus this energy on healing and sending it to people, sending love, sending light, sending lots of things. Our thoughts are energy, so be careful. I would highly suggest that you're careful with your thoughts, because those thoughts are energy, and when you hold somebody in a negative energy space with your thoughts, it's actually affecting them. So why is Halloween an important time? I think Halloween is a very important time because it allows people to come out of their boxes and go super wild. It allows people to dress up and pretend to be someone they're not, and to just forget about life for a little while and embrace death and dark and witches and scary, and it kind of makes scary okay. Kind of normalizes the dark side of life, because it's all about balance. It's all about, addressing and trying to integrate polarities. The dark with the light, the yin and the yang, the female and the male. It's all about, I think it's all about just welcoming all of those spooky traditions and saints and spirits and ghosts and goblins and all of the rest. So that's why I love Halloween as well, because anything goes. Nobody looks weird. Everybody can just act whatever way they want without any judgment, and I love that. It's also, I love the way that it's a community thing as well. There are parties, fancy dress parties. The kids go trick-or-treating. You can probably hear the kids in the background now, but I've been ringing my bell and they're quite loud, running up and down the stairs because I'm in a building. So yeah, I love that. And maybe it's a time of the year where neighbours would talk and kind of mingle a lot more than the rest of the year, because the kids are out in the street, and maybe the parents are out in the street, or whatever, the adults are out in the street, and there's a party. So it's like a community kind of, it's more of a community celebration than Christmas, if you think about it, because Christmas is more like family. Family is family, and obviously your friends are your family. That's good as well. But do families mix around Christmas time? Like, would your family go over to your neighbour's family and have a turkey sambo? No. They probably wouldn't. Maybe they would. Depends on where you live and what. And I don't know. It could be. You could. Maybe they could. But what I'm saying is Halloween. Halloween is more of an integration of neighbours and society and all the rest. Another thing that is something, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, because I myself was trying to get my head around it, and the idea of death death is like one of those topics where no one wants to talk about. It's morbid. It's really a controversial subject that people feel uncomfortable about. But I think it's necessary to talk about it more. And it's important to remember that it's an important part of life. Because death is, we're all going to die. But death also makes you grateful for the life that you have. And we experience death in lots of different ways throughout our life. Like the death of your teenage years when you go into your 20s. The death of your children's years when you turn a teenager. You know, there are cycles that die and you never go back. So it's curious because I was reading up on this as well just there recently, and we go through different deaths. Not only people deaths, but also our cycles of life deaths. The death of going to school, we don't go to school anymore. The death of a previous job. I'm not sure if you've ever had a tarot reading. I'm sure most people who are listening to this would have had a tarot reading. But there's a death card that comes up and has come up for me. But it doesn't mean that someone's going to die. It means that there's a death of an old part of me, or an old way of doing things that you're not going to do anymore, or that you've already stopped doing, or you should stop doing. So death is a lot more apparent in our lives, and it's good for us to be able to accept it and let it go, because it's a part of evolution as well. It's a part of our growth. And you know, when we can release and let go, or allow things to die within our lives, then we create space for new things too. We know how you feel about death in all of the senses, like not just human death and human death, any kind of death. Let me know how you feel about it, because I think we should talk about it more. I think it's something that shouldn't be so taboo or so controversial. I hope you had a lovely Halloween last night. In the end, this episode has been released on the 1st of November due to Halloween getting in the way. I hope you enjoyed this episode and have a nice day today if you do celebrate the Day of the Dead or All Saints' Day like they do here in Spain. In Spain, today's a holiday. Enjoy your day and enjoy the rest of the week. And remember, if you want to reach out to me, you can do. Just check the show notes. You can contact me on Instagram or my website. Cheerio!